YouTube tried ever so hard to keep me down, but now I'm batting 500 against them when it comes to strike appeals and shit. It's sad that we have to be talking about the fact that I've, been struck 3 times. I still don't agree with any of them, but yeah, it looks like I finally won this one. So the reason there was such a big gap in videos yesterday, if you guys watch on Rumble or if you're watching on Odyssey right now, you wouldn't have really noticed too much of anything going on. But yeah, over on the YouTube side, there was the one that came out at 3:30 and whatever, and then the other ones that didn't come out until like 8 o'clock. I'm talking local time here. And that's because I was waiting on an appeal for a video. What was that? The one we were talking about booster jabs or something? A few days ago at this point, yeah, it got struck. I watched back the entire 28 minutes. Still didn't see anything unless you could take it uncharitably out of context. But hey, it looks like YouTube agreed when somebody actually legitimately took a look at it. And yeah, progress on the channel, the backhand stuff. Take a look at that every once in a while. It kind of ground to a screeching fucking halt as soon as that strike hit. And then after it got appealed, yeah, things went back to normal. So, haha, batting 500 against them. Looks like I'll be in the Hall of Fame, and if we continue up with those numbers, and we're just about out of fucking YouTube jail over here, and that one strike that's currently on the channel. Last time I had to take a little sabbatical, is just about out of there, so knock on wood, it'll fucking disappear into the ether like Joe Biden tried to do, but I guess he got the pressure from his constituents to stick around the White House. It's like, okay, every once in a while, yeah, you get burnt out. You're doing a whole lot of work. I understand those 6-hour work days, 3, 4, 5 days out of the week might be a little bit taxing for somebody who is 78 fucking years old, but hey, whatever. He wants to go take a long extended weekend. He had this entire vacation planned out, just like the other long weekends that he's been taking on a semi-regular basis since he took office 7 fucking months ago. I can't believe it's only been that long at this point, but yeah, that scheduled trip and then rescheduled trip has been postponed, at least for a little while. Who knows? He'll probably go squirrel off for a couple of weeks once this all is over. But, okay, you're the president, okay? We'll just put this in the context of any job, okay? You have something pressing, even something as trivial as like, head office wants us to do inventory and we need to get it done, and somebody has to work overtime, or you gotta fucking work a weekend or something. That happens for regular jobs. Don't you think, I don't know, if you have the biggest military collapse, the biggest policy failure in decades at this point, right square in your lap, don't you think you should be working a little bit of overtime, considering you're making like $360,000 a fucking year, which you're taking up? Trump deferred it for 4 years, but yeah, Biden making sure, because I guess that multi-million-dollar mansion he has in Delaware won't pay for itself. But yeah, he's not going back this weekend, at least right now. Just look for it in the next couple of days when he goes back there anyways. But we all know why he wants to go there, because I talked about that a couple of days ago as well. He's not releasing any of the guest list of the people that he's seeing in Delaware because, I don't know, my private house or something like that. It's very interesting, but yeah, no. I guess he's just going to be playing with blocks in the Oval Office while the adults in the room fucking figure some shit out, and then they'll just wind him up for a little bit, send him out there for 10 minutes to give a little speech. It's fairly embarrassing the way that the United States has allowed the fucking collapse of the Kabul airport, because we'll just go ahead and hop ahead. I had everything kind of laid out here for a minute, but we don't know what world leaders, or if any, Biden has actually talked to since the Taliban completely took over America. Afghanistan, sorry. Freudian slip, or maybe just a little fortune teller prognostication. Who knows? But we got some reports from Britain and Germany, okay? There's been some pictures and there were some reports that, we've seen that British paratroopers are actually going in there in order to collect people and extract people from this very terrible situation that they're currently going through. But what's the Pentagon doing right now? Oh, we sent 6,000 troops to corral the Hamid Karzai Airport in Kabul. Okay, cool. How many people are you taking out? We're taking out thousands. How many Americans are going to be in there? Not as many as we should be taking, but you're still taking thousands, and you're going to be resettling refugees instead of actually getting all the Americans out. Okay, cool. Pentagon pressed on why British paratroopers leaving Kabul airport to rescue citizens, but Americans aren't. Exactly. There's 6,000 at least right now that are there, and they aren't really doing anything going out there and getting the people that need to be got. It's not their fault. They're just following orders, and the guys delivering and setting out the orders, aren't to be trusted. Pentagon was pressed Thursday to explain why the U.S. isn't rescuing Americans outside Kabul airport as the British are doing for their citizens. At a press briefing, Fox News' Jennifer Griffin said General Taylor, British paratroopers are leaving the airport, going into Kabul to rescue and evacuate some of the citizens who are trapped and can't get to the airport because of the Taliban. Why isn't the United States doing that? Good question. Major General Hank Taylor, who serves as Deputy Director for the Joint Staff for Regional Operations, replied that the U.S. is focusing on securing Hamid Karzai International Airport. They're doing a fucking great job, though. U.S. tells Americans to avoid traveling to Kabul Airport because of potential security threats. If you guys are supposed to be locking down the airport to making sure that it's safe, why are you telling people not to travel to the airport? Are you just that fucking inept? Or are you just that underprepared? Or does nobody know what the fuck is going on? It sounds like a mix of all three. Americans in Afghanistan were told Saturday not to go to the airport in Kabul. Oh, okay, fair enough. That was what? When did he issue that message? That was like 4 or 5 days ago, man. Who cares about that? New intel has come to light. Because of potential security threats outside the gates of Kabul airport, we are advising U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport and to avoid airport gates at this time unless you receive individual instructions from the United States government's representatives to do so, the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan said in an alert. Tough titties and good luck, and hopefully you can find your own way out. Basically. Pentagon officials in Washington declined to elaborate on the potential threats. Yes, so Britain and their military are sending out paratroopers, okay? The Germans are sending in helicopters and airlifts, and they've already got 2,000 people, and they don't have nearly the same force that the Americans have on the ground. They're actually making progress. Americans are failing to secure one fucking airport, but at least they're diverse and inclusive, right? German Defense Minister Hengret Kamp-Karrenbauer, no diversity detected, announced on Saturday that the nation's military has evacuated about 2,000 people from the capital of Afghanistan since the Taliban takeover last week. The situation is difficult, but with our capabilities and everything that comes up on the ground, we will keep on taking out as many as possible, Kamp-Karrenbauer told reporters during a press briefing. It's always fun. Those evacuated include an unspecified number of Germans, Afghans, and nationals of international partners, according to a statement by the German Foreign Ministry. In addition, Germany deployed 2 helicopters to Kabul overnight, and they will be ready to begin evacuations out of the city on Saturday. The efforts will be coordinated with the United States, along with other allies, who are working around the clock to keep Hamid Karzai International Airport secured. May I remind you that they are failing to do so. But that's alright. We were told that the Taliban are being a much different force than they were back in 2000, 2001. That's the old regime. They're caring much more about people, and that's why this story here is going to shock absolutely nobody. Taliban reportedly sets woman on fire, accused of bad cooking. Let's hear him out. The Taliban has reportedly set a woman on fire for her bad cooking. Okay. According to Fox News, this is happening as countless women are fleeing the country and going into hiding out of fear of being sold as sex slaves. Yeah, pretty much. They are forcing people to give them food and cook for them. A woman was put on fire. That's an interesting way of saying set on fire. So was she cooked for not cooking well? Like, is that what we're doing right now? Like, I think we should probably start doing that with millennial women, but then again, it sounds like this was just like a warm blanket, like an exceptionally warm blanket that they were just put on fire, because she was accused of bad cooking for Taliban fighters, trying to poison them more. I don't know, your flambe, it collapsed in the middle, that is unacceptable. Get in hole. Obi fled Afghanistan when she noticed the Taliban were taking over parts of the country. Since her escape, she has been in touch with countless women and activists back in the country. Okay, if they're just, leaving activists, that's probably alright. I don't really care. But who's filling this power vacuum? Well, it's the Chinese. We've seen their propaganda, okay? And then listening to the spokespeople on Twitter from the Taliban, which is, oh boy, just an indictment on that fucking incestuous platform. They're just taking the talking points of China. Okay? Oh yes, we will hold Americans accountable. You want to talk about freedom of speech, but yet at the same time you allow these private companies, right, my friend? You allow them to kick off your sitting president. How can you talk about freedom of speech? We'll go back to flambeing our beaches whenever we want to. This is the same shit the fucking CCP have been saying everywhere. Global Times, right to the face of Antony Blinken. You guys remember that meeting up there in Alaska and Anchorage? They're like, yeah, stop talking about human rights violations. We remember riots 2020. Haha, you Americans have no sway with us. And yeah, Beijing continues to capitalize on U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan for propaganda campaign. Exactly. Why wouldn't you? See, that's why ultimately, unless there's a change in course, they're going to win this one, at least optically for the time being, because they don't have any borders, any sort of negotiations with these worthless activists. They don't have to be accountable to anybody's lobbies to be more diverse and inclusive. You know what they did with the internet in China? They banned all feminist talk, okay? They just went, no, that's stupid. Get rid of it. And they fucking did. I think it's stupid and everything because there's nothing quite like mocking a feminist because they are just about a 75 IQ life form. But when you don't have to worry about the fringes, all the fucking weirdos on the outset, you can be laser focused on your vision. I'm not saying that is some sort of a celebratory proclamation. I don't want China to win. I would rather have the United States reverse course and fucking fix all this shit. But with the current leadership in place and people who are, failing to beat off a couple of sand people from taking over a fucking airport? Jesus Christ, man, you make optimism seem very, very unlikely. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Qiyang said the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan was a laughingstock during a daily press conference on August 19th as part of Beijing's propaganda campaign to leverage the crisis to attack the United States. I guess by proxy, if you extrapolate it out far enough, you can kind of make the same claim with anybody else who's kind of just mocking the response to this kind of stuff. It's like, look what Biden's doing. Leaving the room without answering any questions. Fucking falling apart when even slightly pressed. Constantly trying to go back to the bunker and go for a rest. Is that propaganda? Or is that just stating facts at this point? Your propaganda doesn't need to be so fantastical in the claims that it makes. Islamist terrorist group Taliban sweep across Afghanistan and took over the capital in Kabul as the U.S. troops withdrew where their forces had been stationed since 2001. Yes, although the evacuation marks the end of years of the United States casualties in the Middle Eastern country. Oh no, wait, there's more. The decision has come under harsh criticism, especially in the way that they've done it in response to the reporter's remarks about China is laughing at the United States during a press conference. Spokesperson Hua said, isn't this a laughingstock in itself? Yeah, pretty much to the point. Again, don't take this as any sort of praise, but at least the spokespeople, and again, this is also coming from the very censored media over there, but at least they get straight to the point whenever there's a press conference. There's no circling back on this one. It's like, yeah, China's laughing at the United States. Yeah, that entire situation, regardless of which parties are involved, is pretty fucking funny, right? Like, well, yeah, kind of. Have you seen those pictures of those guys in blackface getting paraded around in the streets? It's a little reminiscent of the Prime Minister up here. As to whether the United States-Afghanistan policy is a failure and whether United States allies still think it is reliable and credible, people have their fair judgment, she said. Meanwhile, China's state-run media and diplomats have been working on a prospective friendship with the Taliban. Yeah, we talked about that, how they're going to be recognizing the Taliban if they are in fact successful, which all signs point to yes, because who's heard from the president of Afghanistan since, when was that, like Monday or something? Jesus, this has only been going on for a week. Holy fuck. That just sunk in. Like, the fall of Kabul happened on Sunday. Like, Jesus. Anyways, the same day, Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, that's a real name, okay, said the international community should respect Afghanistan's independence and the will of its people. Well, some of its people, the people that they can negotiate with and forge alliances with, because they all have the same fucking ideology. But we'll talk about why that burgeoning relationship between the Taliban, the CCP, and Iran is very important, because they all just fundamentally have the exact same governmental makeup. Sure, the people are different. It's just authoritarianism, tyrannicism with a different paint job. Rice instead of sand. It's just, nothing's different. That's why they can plan so far into the future, because they don't have to worry about going out and campaigning every once in a while. They don't have to worry about constant pressure. That's why that old Stalin quote where democracy will never win is true, but that power vacuum shouldn't ultimately be filled by communism and authoritarianism. Democracy can work, it can be healthy, as long as both sides agree on the ultimate goals of the country and the democracy in and of itself. It's just we've gotten to a point where the government has become so big and so intrusive that it's just pushing itself in way too many directions, so that at the moment that an actual crisis arrives, it's so fucking disorganized and you don't know who has to report to who in order to talk to the president, or needs to talk to the generals, or needs to wake up the president because it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and he's down for a nap and somebody needs to do something. There's just so many people involved that in order to get the ball rolling, you have to assemble a group of people that are like 95% spread across the country. Meanwhile, in China, or in these totalitarian regimes, it doesn't necessarily have to be China. They know who's in charge, okay? The successor is being groomed, and they'll be put in place. That's why they can have like a 100-year plan. They don't have to have just a 4-year strategy in order to fix a rotten corpse. But that's also another topic for another day. That's just kind of a general overview of why there's such a open relationship between the Taliban and the CCP. They both kind of see each other. It's like that Spider-Man meme where they're just pointing at one another and it's the exact same thing. But this article that I have pulled up here in the background, it also goes to show you that when a crisis is in fact happening, like a legitimate crisis, not this whole pandemic thing, it really just kind of goes to show you what's actually important in a time of crisis. Afghanistan evacuees don't need negative COVID-19 tests. That's fine. You're fleeing an active war zone. You're trying to remove as many Americans as possible. You just snatch them up, throw them on a plane, and fucking away you go. Okay, you take a look at most of the people in this picture, they'll be fine. It's just when push comes to shove, when you need to start making very important cuts, you need to start trimming the fat, you really start to see what's not that important. The State Department announced on Thursday that evacuees are not required to get the COVID-19 test to travel from Afghanistan to out of the country. A blanket humanitarian waiver has been implemented for COVID testing for all persons the government is relocating from Afghanistan. As Afghanistan has been a hotspot for the China virus, sure, medical exams, including COVID-19 tests, have been required for evacuees prior to the Taliban takeover of Kabul. Oh, they weren't following those policies either? Oh man, I guess you can just mark that one off the list. Yeah, they said that they look after women's rights, and they also said that they follow COVID procedures. Like, oh my god, these guys really are terrorists. Now again, I'm not a big fan of Lindsey Graham. I'm not a big fan of rhinos. I'm not a big fan of politicians in general. I tend to like some of the things that they say, and Lindsey Graham is one of those people who, it really does depend what they're talking about. I can agree with the idea. I don't need to necessarily back the person. Just if you state something so patently obvious, hey, you got my support on this single issue. If the United States leaves citizens and allies in Afghanistan, Biden deserves to be impeached. Very much so, okay? Somebody has to be accountable for this. Biden's not taking any of it. He's just trying to shirk his responsibilities off to everybody else. He learned well from his former boss, number 44. Somebody else can take the fall for Benghazi, the Boston bomber. Fast and Furious. I've led the most scandal-free administration in history. And you can go ahead and give me glowing praise. Thank you, CNN, for that 4-part docuseries about the success of my administration. He still lives in a world where he thinks that he'd win a 3rd term. Good fucking luck, my guy. But back on target here. Yep, somebody has to take the fall for this. And it really should be Biden, because he bungled it. He totally fucking bungled it. His State Department threw out the fucking plan that Mike Pompeo put in place. Clearly, it was an actual plan. They are flying by the seat of their pants. Listen, we're going to secure the airport, okay? We're going to secure the airport in Afghanistan so people can get there and we can evacuate everybody. What's that? It's very dangerous outside the airport? Fuck. You can't allow them to keep shifting the fucking goalposts. Remember, the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan was never an inevitability, man. And then, this unfolded a lot quicker than I thought. You had all the eyes on the ground. You had all the troops on the ground. You were the one who started this process. You delayed it from May. We're in August. If you would have followed Trump's plan, would it have happened exactly the same way? We don't know. All we know is the way that you did it, you fucked up, and you should pay the price for it. Former chairman of Senate Judiciary Committee Lindsey Graham on Friday said if President Joe Biden leaves United States citizens and his allies in Afghanistan based on the Constitution, he deserves to be impeached. Exactly. They should be drafting up the articles of impeachment right now. So as soon as that August 31st drop dead date from the Taliban, even though they're not really, sticking to that, they're kind of playing fast and loose with the rules. Who would have thought that from violent insurrectionists? Those articles should already be drafted up. Listen, you fucked up, and a lot of people are dying because of it. We're duty bound to get every American citizen out. We're honor bound to get those Afghans who fought along our side out, Graham said Friday, interview with Fox News, adding, and here's what I would say. If we leave any Americans behind, and we leave thousands of those Afghans who fought along our side behind bravely, Joe Biden deserves to be impeached for higher crimes and misdemeanors or of dereliction of duty. Listen, he keeps trying to flee the White House at every conceivable moment. That's a pretty big dereliction of duty. If you wanted to get him on treason, that's another one of those things from, the impeachment charter. All you need to do is just take a look at a couple of laptops that are out there, and I'm pretty sure you could find some bribery and treason charges as well. But hey, the FBI has that open investigation right now. They've had that laptop since 2019. I'm sure a report and a full and thorough investigation will be conducted very shortly, and we'll be getting those results of that investigation about the same time we do get the Durham report. Anybody still fucking believe that one's coming out? Yeah, about the same time we get the report on the Las Vegas shooter. But hey, man, start drafting that shit up right now. The Democrats, you've seen how they weaponized impeachment. Fucking throw it right back in their face. Stop being spineless, do something. But look at who I'm fucking addressing in this one, Lindsey Graham. That man right there is the human embodiment of the political shapeshifter. Real conservative policy crossdresser, but let's not talk about what he likes to do on the weekends. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Catch y'all later.